All right, we're all set to go. Yep. Thanks, Maurice. It is 7:02, and I'd like to call the Monday, November 14th meeting of Kimberley City Council to order here on the homelands of the Ktunaxa peoples. Welcome, everybody. So I guess this is technically our second meeting, the inaugural qualified as a meeting. However, this is really our full council meeting with a full agenda. So over the course of the evening, it's not that full an agenda tonight. So we'll kind of take our time as we go through the process and maybe explain kind of as we go, some of the pieces that warrant explanation. Do you have a comment? You look like you're ready to make one.
No comment.
Thank you, Scott. So without further ado, Maurice, do we have any late items this evening?
There is no late items, but there was a late withdrawal. So the H2 Alpine Resort Village core zoning direction is being removed from the agenda at the request of the applicant.
Which item was that?
H2 under new business.
H2. Okay. Okay, got it. Thank you. So with that change, could I have a mover to adopt, please? Councillor McBain, thank you. And Councillor Royer seconds. Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next up, we have the adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on October the 11th. Mover, please. Councillor Roberts, thank you. And Councillor McGuire seconds. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. And finally, a mover to adopt the minutes of the inaugural meeting held on November the 7th. Councillor Dunnebeck, thank you very much. And Councillor Karen seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. All right. Congratulations, Council. We got everybody's name in the minutes for the meeting tonight, right out of the bat. Okay, we do have a delegation this evening from BC Emergency Health Services, specifically our community paramedics. So we have Dawn and Amber, and clearly an additional individual.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that Blake Hennon was coming.
Okay, Blake, welcome. Good to have you here tonight. So you guys are up. Who's going to take the floor?
I will take it.
Awesome. Since you are the
I am.
community paramedic.
I am.
Welcome.
My name is Amber Pasula. Thank you for welcoming me. I am the new community paramedic in Kimberley. I'm replacing Aileen Boyd, which some of you already know. She was a great person to have in this role. She's moved on, so now I'm taking her place. The community paramedicine program is run under BC Ambulance, so I'm still with BC Ambulance. I just work more one-on-one with people, usually older adults, 50 plus, that have some sort of chronic illnesses. So instead of them calling the hospital or going to the hospital every day, I'm kind of the middleman that will go in and talk to them, see if I can help out. I can also reach out to their care team, their healthcare team as well, just so I can help them at home, opposed to dragging them to the hospital and making them wait in the waiting room, because we know the East Kootenay Regional Hospital is very busy. So that's my role. I will be going to their places of residence, helping them. They'll be able to contact me via phone, or even if they have a question for their healthcare provider, I can reach out to the doctor when it's convenient for them, or their diabetes team or whatnot. And I can stop those visits to the hospital, and I can also help them go through anything that they need. So it's a great program. BC needs it. Really, everybody needs it, because it's something that we can help them with, and it's really one-on-one, and the communication and the relationship that I've built with lots of seniors so far is amazing. They really count on me. So it's a great program. I really highly recommend it. And we've had no problems so far with it. My manager and my UC have seen the program being very successful in other areas. So BC Ambulance is really pushing it forward and trying to get community paramedics in other places as well. So I did give I do have the brochure here. I don't know if you guys saw it. I scanned it in that. So yeah, so, okay. So it does say everything in there, but yeah, it's one-on-one, right? So I'm the face of the community paramedics. So I will go and see them directly. So any questions?
This may seem like kind of a silly, simple question, but how busy are you? And it sounds like you're definitely providing a need within town, but is one person meeting the needs, or how far? Yeah, how deficient would we be? I guess would be another way to put that.
So right now, I've been 5 months into it, so there's quite a bit of more training so 6 months when you start the job, you do quite a bit of training, like just going through specialized like diabetes or whatever, just researching more and shadowing healthcare providers as well, which is amazing. More information and more knowledge is amazing. So right now I've got 11 clients that I've been talking to on the phone. I've been signed off for that so far. This week I get signed off to visit them face to face in person. Is it enough? Right now it is. I can see it being very successful in Kimberley. As we all know, we all live here. We all know there's a lot of seniors here and people that need help. They can't do a lot of stuff, and it's easy for somebody to just kind of run around and go visit them. It would be nice to have more. And I think BC Ambulance, as soon as we get going more, we'll probably take a look at it. I can't promise or say anything, right? It's just there's definitely a need.
Yeah, I think it would be good, now that I guess the question's been asked, it would be good for you guys to just be mindful of that. And when you come back and next time we talk, kind of maybe give us an update on what you're seeing and what needs to be filled. And last, I just want to say thanks, because it sounds like something we desperately need, and yeah, appreciate it.
The red button, sorry. I was wondering whether or not you are presently filling your time. Is it a full-time job, or are you also working on the ambulance on regular call-outs, or are you working out with your RCMP on calls, or how does this work for you?
So right now within the training, there's a lot of online courses that we're doing, just catching up and making sure that I understand exactly what I'm doing. Going to talk to people, and being a lone responder, I'd be going into people's houses by myself. I have to make sure that I'm well aware of what I'm walking into, making sure that I get everything covered for my own safety and for everybody else's, right? Even for the homeowner. So I've been doing a lot of courses online. It is a full-time job. So I work Tuesday to Friday. So with the courses and just the stuff that I need to learn, now I've been talking to people in the last couple of weeks. So I've got a schedule set up to talk to people. So it will be definitely at least 40 hours a week. And as well, if I choose to, I can pick up on car as well. So I can still be on the ambulance. It's still the part of the job that I do love still. So it's definitely my choice if I want to work more.
Yep.
So perhaps this question may be better for Blake, but Aileen was in the job for a year plus, a couple of years. So she was the first in, and we've got that couple of years worth of experience. How is the program evolving? Like, what did we learn in that first couple of years, and how might it be evolving?
I can answer some of that, and then I'll let Blake answer some of it as well.
Awesome.
Just because I had a really tight relationship with Aileen. So
okay, cool.
I've talked to her over my training period as well. So I get her knowledge as well, and what she's, what's worked for her and what hasn't. Yeah. So that's been nice. So we've learned that there's definitely a need for it. And it's changing I'm getting more protocols that I can do. Right, since the nurses and the healthcare team is short, we've been learning how to do certain skills like drawing blood, right? So it's just the CP role's always changing what need is. So it will take longer, like we have to go through the process and make sure that we're all up to date and trained properly to do it, but we for sure will be building on that. I'll let Blake answer any more.
Cool.
Well, basically, yeah, in the last few years, I mean, this program is quite revolutionary in the field of sort of pre-hospital care, right? So back, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, it was sort of load and go, throw people in the back of the ambulance, rush them to the hospital, and that was it. And clearly that's not the answer anymore, right? The hospitals don't have capacity to see everyone. We don't have the capacity to respond to everything. It's just become completely overwhelming, as you're all quite well aware. So this insertion, and this isn't anything new. It started actually, we modeled it after organizations in the rest of Canada have already started this off, and we've watched what they did and the success that they had. So it's really quite exciting to see. And in the last, I think the program's been going for 3 years now, maybe. We've had lots of challenges and bumps along the way. It's province-wide, right? So I think there's over 80 positions province-wide with a variety of part-time to full-time, standalone. And they've tried to incorporate them into also being a response unit as well. In the chance there might not be an ambulance available, there's still trained paramedics that can possibly do some care prior to an arrival in an ambulance. But it's good that but the success has been tremendous, right? Just watching the care plans of these patients, the doctors that are caring for them are very appreciative of this service. So it's really great to see, and we're hoping for more. We're pushing for more. We're changing positions. A lot of the part-time positions are now being converted to full-time due to the success. Two things: due to the success, and we know how successful will be, but it's also very difficult to staff sometimes too, part-time positions in small towns, right? You guys know what the cost of living is now. So to create a full-time position so that has a little more appetite to have people come and work those jobs. So with those changes, we've now had more success. For example, Sparwood converted to a full-time position. So we've now had success with that. We also have an advanced care paramedic CP based in Cranbrook. It's not currently staffed. It's more of a political thing right now, but it is still current. We're actually posting for a new position. And what they can also do is a really cool thing, because we're introducing what's called a treat and refer program too. So sometimes an ambulance can respond and not necessarily have to take a patient to the hospital, but leave them at home with certain treat and refer guidelines as long as all the criteria is met. And then a CP can then follow up with them the next day to make sure there's no gaps or no misses and they're doing okay. So This is stuff that we've never seen before in pre-hospital care. So it's quite exciting.
Yeah, outstanding. Thanks for that, Blake. Further questions, council? All right, Amber. Yeah, go ahead, Woody.
Is there a certain number of clients you take, or is it just based on demand from GPs? Or?
Yeah, no. So the GPs will refer clients to me. I'll get the referral, and then I'll look to see what that person needs. And then if I feel I can help them, I can reach out. It's not based on numbers. I clearly don't want to have too many, because then I will start dropping them and not being able to take the time I need for them. I've been cautioning and about that, and just so that, I have to base my time and how many patients I have. So there's not really a number, it's just how many I feel that I can deal with, and I can make sure that I get the right attention to them. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Amber, being relatively new, you've been thrown to the lions here
Yeah,
with
it's
all the
okay.
questions. You did an outstanding job. Thank you for that. And Dawn and Blake, thank you for being here as well.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time.
All right, you bet. All right, next up, we have the zoning amendment bylaw for Forest Crown Drive. And the motion on the floor is that council provide second reading for the bylaw, and that a public hearing for this bylaw be scheduled for the regular meeting of council on Monday, December the 12th. So the purpose of second reading is to bring it forward for a public hearing, and the date being December 12th. Could I have a mover, please? Councilor McBain, thank you. And Councilor McGuire seconds. Discussion. Any comment on this one, Troy?
Yeah, maybe since this bylaw came before the previous council, just give a little bit of a background on it, just so it's clear on what's happening or what's proposed here, sorry. So this is a proposal to rezone the property at 522 Forest Crown Drive from the current R9 zoning to the proposed R1 zone. And this is a request from the owner to their desire is to build a single family home on this lot, but they'd also like to build a detached accessory dwelling as well, either as a carriage house style, so a residential unit above the detached garage, or possibly a standalone secondary unit behind the main unit. So that's not presently permitted in the R9 zone. So their option is to apply to rezone as they've done here. So as mentioned, the previous council gave first reading to this proposed zoning amendment at the October 11th meeting. And if council approves the recommendation tonight, we'll be moving forward with next steps to send notice to all the adjacent owners and occupants, and have the item up for public hearing consideration at the December 12th meeting.
All right, thank you, Troy. Council, any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilor Roberts.
Mayor? Troy, if I'm not mistaken, when it came before us, first reading, we had a fairly in-depth conversation around the feasibility of doing this in the middle of of already established environment where it was largely single family homes that have not had those extra buildings added onto the property. And further to that, although I'm not sure how relevant it is, I have had a number of phone calls of concern about the fact that one unit would be plunked down in the middle of all of this neighborhood where it previously has not been permitted, to be able to allow that to happen now and change the zoning for this one property. And so that said, and based on the discussion that I've had with people, and it's also my personal belief that I don't think it's fair to be able to say to those people, well, you can't do it because you weren't there before when you built your house, but we'll just let this person do it now. I don't think that's right. I think people should be able to know that in this particular area, you can build another building, a laneway home, or any little thing your heart desires, as long as it's like in the area that happens. But to plunk one down in the middle of an area that previously has not permitted it does not work well for me. And that said, I'll be voting against this.
Okay. If I
Wanna
may,
respond?
yeah, just yeah, that's good to hear that you're already getting some feedback from adjacent neighbors. We have as well. The applicant has been reaching out to their neighbors to inform them about the proposal. So it's quite natural that we start to hear from some of those neighbors already. And I mean, in a sense, they're working ahead of the process a little bit. If, like I said, if council approves the recommendation tonight, it isn't an indication of your intent to approve the application overall. There's no need to make any decision in that regard tonight. It's really just a question of whether you wish to move the proposal forward for consideration, and to hear from neighbors or anyone else that might have an interest or feel they're impacted by that proposal. I won't go into too much right now verbally, but there's some background information there in the report about how this kind of proposal can help us to find more units throughout the community, and it's kind of building off the work that was done with the larger zoning amendment for bylaw 2722, which is the housing availability and affordability amendments that opened up some of those options for additional units elsewhere in the community. So it is potential that we do look at the R9 zone and other zones that are presently single family only, and look at allowing the option for a rental unit as an accessory unit on those properties. And I mean, I'd fair to say that the planning department would certainly support that overall, but we recognize that the process here is in this case, is to look at this specific proposal, and council can hear from anyone that participates in the public hearing and make their decision after that.
Thank you, Troy.
Yeah.
So it's not unusual for us, as elected officials, to get calls, when there is something that is of concern. I think the key here is that we need to get those on the public record, and phoning a counselor is not the public record. And the whole idea behind the public hearing is to get it on the public record. And not only that, but to get the balance of feedback from others who feel they're impacted in the community. So echoing what Troy's saying, Councillor Roberts, we just want to go to a public hearing, get all of that on the public record. And then when we come to third reading, we'll be in a position to, to make comment based on, what we've heard.
Point taken, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Royer.
I've also had feedback, and right now, as it stands, if we're just going through the process right now, but the feedback that I'm getting from my clients in that general area is good and bad. Just so you know,
What a surprise. Eh?
Yeah, good and bad.
Mixed
So
opinion.
I'm gonna leave it at that.
Thank you for the comment. Okay, last call for comment. We'll call the question then. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, that motion is carried. Thanks for that. Next up, we have the City of Kimberley wastewater treatment plant loan authorization bylaw for consideration of adoption. So we've had several conversations about this and what it is in the past, but as with the previous item, all those conversations were with previous council. So I think it would behoove us to get this on the floor and then have our CFO, Jim Hendricks, speak to this. So the motion on the floor is that council adopt the City of Kimberley wastewater treatment plant loan authorization bylaw. We'll deal with both of these motions separately. Councillor McBain moves and Councillor Roberts seconds. Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so the purpose, as noted of this report, is to request adoption of the loan authorization bylaw. Just by way of background, this bylaw was first presented to council and received first three readings at the January 24th regular meeting, after which it was submitted to the province, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, for their consideration. In August, we received a letter from them saying that they had approved the bylaw, which allowed us to take the question that was on the ballot for elector assent. Council's well aware of that. Through that process, elector approval was ultimately granted. Official results of the assent voting were 1,545 yes and 259 no votes. So quite a positive response there. So we're not quite at the end of the road with regards to the borrowing. I've noted the additional steps that we have to undertake before we can actually go ahead and borrow the funds. The next step, or the thing we're waiting for next, is approval of the grant application, which will be the ultimate deciding factor on whether this project moves forward or not. And we hope to hear that no later than spring of 2023. Regardless of whether we get the grant or not, just given the fact that we're this far along the process with the loan authorization bylaw, we would go ahead and get to the point where we've gone through all the steps and can borrow the funds. So even if this grant application is denied, that loan authorization bylaw is good for 5 years. So if there's another grant opportunity that comes up within that 5-year period that fits within the parameters of the finances that it was kind of built on, then we can utilize that bylaw. If it's not used in 5 years, we have to start the process essentially from scratch.
Yeah, this has been a very long and arduous process, to say the least.
Yeah.
And we're kind of at the final step for this. And as you said, we're anxious to hear back on the on the grant application. Hopefully everything goes smoothly and we're ready to pull the trigger. It's also important to remember that this borrowing isn't going to take place until 2025 or 2026, depending on when completion of the project happens. So we've got an awful lot of water to go under the bridge between now and then. Council comments? Go ahead, Councillor Royer.
Is it possible to lock in the interest rate, because this is going, it just keeps going up and down, and now, is there any chance of that?
No, it's the easy answer. And of course, nobody knows where it's headed. It was quite a different number when we first started this process, and given the fact that we're not going to be incurring the actual borrowing until 2025 or 2026, I'm hoping, I think everybody's hoping that things will calm down a little bit, the rates will drop back a bit, but
Yeah, the last, kind of time in 81, 2, 3, 4, 5, when we had this type of environment, economic environment, it took a couple of years, but it was not 10 years in order for things to kind of go back to where they started from. It's impossible to tell, but we have no crystal ball that's clear enough. And the fact is, we need to replace the wastewater treatment plant, and it will cost what it will cost as we go through the process. And we'll do our best to minimize that, of course, but those are external dependencies that we just can't control.
with the long-term debenture debt issues, just the way we borrow, there's typically a 10-year reset date. So regardless of the rate we borrow at, it'll be reset after a 10-year period anyway. So.
Yeah, great point, Jim. Thank you for that. Further, Council. All right, we'll call the question then. All those in favor of adoption? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There, the second resolution there as well.
Oh, right.
Thank
Thank you. Thanks for the reminder. Lest we forget. The second part of that resolution is that Council directs staff to send a certified copy of the loan authorization bylaw to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. I think this is probably one of the last check marks as part of the grant application process. And upon expiry of the requisite challenge period for the bylaw, that staff be directed to apply for a certificate of approval from the Inspector of Municipalities. Mover, please. Councillor Royer, thank you. Councillor McBain seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, Jim. Okay, next up we have bylaw 2728, which is in reference to a covenant on a number of properties on Stemwinder Drive. And the motion on the floor is that council adopt bylaw 2728, which is meant to delegate authority to an officer or designated employee to authorize future requests to release this rental covenant from lots 1 through 10 on Stemwinder Drive. These would be the lots on the last leg of Stemwinder on the left-hand side of the road from the playground up to Mountain Spirit. They're fairly narrow properties that to date have been owned by Resorts of the Canadian Rockies. Mover, please. Councillor McBain, thank you. Councillor Karen seconds. Discussion. Go ahead, Troy. I think this is the second one of these we've had in a relatively short period of time. Hence the delegation, I assume.
Yeah, well, we've had a few different ones like this over the years, I guess, but this one applies to, as you said, the 10 lots if you're driving to the resort, to the base area of the resort on the left side of the Stemwinder Drive, just on that last stretch of the Peak to Plattsville Trail there. So this rental covenant applies to only those lots, and the proposed bylaw applies only to that rental covenant, which applies to only those lots. A number of those lots have been changing hands over the last couple of years, and as you can see, there's some houses being built in that area. The covenant imposes a requirement on owners to make sure that they include both or at least one of the 2 potential units built on the property to be rented out for short-term rental or tourist accommodation. That's viewed as a kind of an unreasonable restriction on the property by some of the owners. And we would share that opinion, I guess. The zoning for this area for these particular lots does allow for the option of having a rental suite within there, within the principal single family home, but doesn't impose the requirement that it needs to be used for short-term rental. And in recent concerns with the availability of housing or the lack thereof is a better way to put it, that having a requirement that they put it in a short-term rental basis for visitor accommodation really obviously will remove any of those potential units from the long-term rental supply. So in this, we support this request. We anticipate that there'll be potentially more requests from other owners. And so what we're recommending to council is if you adopt this proposed delegation bylaw, then we prevent this step of coming before you to get your permission to release it. And we'll just deal with that at the staff level, and makes the whole process much more efficient for everybody. So I'll leave it at that unless there's any other questions.
Go ahead, Councillor McGuire.
Does this covenant apply only to those lots?
That's correct. There's similar covenants that apply to other lots in the resort area, some of which have a similar delegation bylaw already set up. But this particular covenant applies only to those lots.
I guess my concern is that if there was somebody potentially buying a lot or looking at developing and they didn't know that they could come to us to remove that covenant, that they might assume that it's there for good. And I'm just wondering if that covenant could be removed entirely from all of the lots.
That is a possibility. Word spreads pretty quick. We know that there's already a couple other owners that would be interested already. The realtors in town, the lawyers in town, the notaries in town that deal with those property transfers, they're fairly well aware. This is probably the most efficient way to do it is upon request and have it signed off at the staff level. The city can incur cost if we try to do them all at once, I guess, on their behalf. And under this terms of this bylaw, then all costs is bared by the requester, by the property owner.
Further, council? Hearing nothing further, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, Troy. Okay, next up under new business, we have the Animal Control and Bylaw Enforcement Report for the third quarter, and the motion on the floor is that we receive the report. Mover, please. Councillor Royer, thank you. Councillor Karen seconds. Discussion. We have some questions. Who's going to field the questions? Maurice? Okay,
Yes.
Go ahead, Councillor Royer.
So I was reading very carefully, and one that's really stands out is the seven dog attacks were investigated. Can we elaborate on that? Like, what's going on? Like,
Unfortunately, I can't give you the details of the files, but what we're seeing is dog off leash, like owners thinking that they have control over their dogs, and basically most of them are dog on dog. There was one that was dog on a person, a senior, and which led to the dog being euthanized. So those are really serious, and we're still struggling with people taking seriously the fact that they need to have their dog on leash.
Go ahead, further.
yes. Is there a way to find out more details somewhere?
Not publicly available.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councillor McBain.
This is just a word on the street thing that I've kind of noticed recently, but has there been reported uptick of feeding of deer or other animals, other wild animals in town? This is just coming through me, and it's just an anecdotal type of question, but has that been something that's been coming through a little bit more recently?
I'm not aware that we've had reports of people feeding deer, but definitely if they do call by the bylaw officer, we will investigate.
Right, and just
Go
to
ahead.
further, yeah, and that's basically what I point them to do too. I was just asking if there had been any other, that you guys knew of, had been any other uptick. Okay, thanks.
Further? I've got a couple, Maurice. Under streets and traffic, it shows a fairly significant increase in activity, in particular 22 tickets. What are those for? Are we talking parking tickets, or what is that?
They are parking tickets, mostly people that are parked in areas that are 2-hour parking or in front of fire hydrant or things like that in front of the fire hall.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I get the illegal. We have 2-hour parking.
We do. There's some areas where we do have 2-hour parking.
I better pay more attention to that. The other was the urban wildlife. The number of incidents that reported in here was up quite a bit. I mean, we're talking 14 for the quarter, which doesn't sound like an awful lot, but it's definitely an uptick. What urban wildlife are we talking about there?
Mostly there, but we are recommending to people to report them to the RAP line. So this
Right.
is we're not investigating those. We're just forwarding them to the RAP line.
Right. Yeah, no, that's cool. All right. That's all I had. Councillor McBain.
Yeah, just to follow up with that, I believe, and again, this is anecdotal, but I heard that one bear got euthanized in town, and I assume it probably wasn't from an attack, just more of a bear milling around. Did you guys have any detail on that or know anything about that? Okay.
I don't know anything about that. What our involvement with that usually is related to garbage. So we definitely had we always have an increase in garbage situation in the spring, and usually before the bear hibernate. So.
Well, part of the reason I'm asking this is somewhat a rhetorical question. If Mr. Mayor and Councillor Roberts will indulge me from my rantings last council about my concern about how we differentiate how deer and bear are treated in town. I still can't remember it to my memory the last time a bear attacked somebody in town, and it seems like they're quickly disposed of for much lesser offenses than our ungulated community in town. So hopefully somebody from the province is listening.
We definitely have a bear that has this picnic area. That bear ends up dragging garbage bags to this location, and so we are working with the residents that are close by to try to educate them on garbage. And this past year, we didn't have a wild-safe coordinator actively in the community, so that made a kind of a difference. We're definitely hoping that we'll have one next year.
Thanks, Maurice.
Away on maternity. So I can shed a little bit of light, if I may. I'm not saying I agree with this. When I was in Victoria a couple of weeks ago, I did meet with the Fish and Wildlife folks to just discuss where we were at, kind of with deer in particular. And within the legislation, bears are deemed to be dangerous animals. Deer are not deemed to be dangerous animals. Therefore, when the conservation officers are called, they deal with the dangerous animals and they have no mandate to deal with the non-dangerous. And so we get a lot of kind of mediocre feedback on the deer side of things because of that, despite attacks and, the danger associated with them. So we're kind of bucking up against some legislation there and mandates for, the various folks. Go ahead.
That's why I think we should mention every time there is a deer attack in town so that it does get news and it does get attention, because I as you mentioned, I don't believe that either.
Yeah, fair enough. Go ahead, Councillor Dunnebeck.
Yeah, I can personally speak about this experience. I actually had a deer jump into my fenced backyard and attack my 11-year-old dog unprovoked. Terrifying for my kids and my wife. And
no doubt.
The bears have never been a problem with the dogs. They come and go as they please. It's the deer that are a real problem at times.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback. I think part of the observation or the experience we have is that people also see bears as very dangerous, and they keep their distance and they behave differently with bears versus what they do with deer, especially especially the fawns. I mean, it's Bambi. How dangerous can Bambi be? And unwittingly are becoming part of the problem. Boy, it's been 10 years that we've been wrestling with this. 2012 was the first year that we had done a cull, and we had spent 2 years prior to that putting together a strategy for how to deal with the emerging problem. And here we are 10 years later, and I'm not sure we're much further ahead today than what we were 10 years ago. Anyway, go ahead. Last comment to you, Steve.
So what I've noticed, the deer population has increased drastically. There's no doubt about that. But what I did notice, and this is a very important stat, is they're eating more and more deer-resistant shrubs. And I don't know if anybody's noticed in their garden, but as the deer increases, they have nothing else to eat. So they're just going to go and eat more, what do they call, deer-resistant shrubs. They disappeared. My clients tell me all about it.
Yeah, if you're hungry enough, you'll eat virtually anything. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, let's move on from that. The receipt of the report is on the table. We'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Okay, next up, we have the 2023 UBCM Fuels Management Grant application. The motion on the floor is that council support the Community Resiliency Investment Program grant application for a temporary Fire Smart coordinator and the continuation of landscape fuel treatments located west of Forest Crown. And further, that council authorize the chief admin officer to sign the applications on behalf of the city. Mover, please. Councillor Royer, thank you. Councillor Roberts seconds. Do we need any discussion on this? Hearing none. Chief, did you want to make some comments?
I'm happy to take it and go.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you could maybe make a comment on the part-time Fire Smart coordinator.
Right. It's a bit of a trial program for us. Other communities are taking advantage of this and creating a full-time position that seems to be funded year after year. For us, this will just allow us to manage a program that's normally on the side of our desk, and we give it as much attention as we physically and mentally can. But this would allow us to dedicate a person to that and probably create a more robust system in the community.
So this would be a contract position?
Yeah, we still got to work out the logistics around that, how that looks as far as payroll. We'd be back to you with that if we were to add a position for sure. Yeah.
Councillor McBain.
Thanks, Rick. What's the split about right now between the salary or the compensation, I guess, and what you think will be left over from the grant?
Well, it's
ballpark.
it's about 100 and sorry, the salary itself, I have it in here, was right around $50,000 roughly at a 0.6, so 3 days a week for that.
All right, any further questions, council? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried.
At this point, before I leave, I'd like to just thank these wonderful people behind us. I work with them, and once in a while we get to support them, and they're amazing. But I am going to tell them that they can leave and follow me out when I go, because I'm going to leave now, so they don't have to stay for the meeting. Okay.
So are you referring to Greg and Melanie?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a requirement, although it's riveting, I know. Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Amber. Yeah, great to meet you. See you. Okay, next up, item number 4 under new business, we have the snow and ice management plan, and the motion is that council receive the plan as attached. Mover, please. Councillor McGuire, thank you. And Councillor Roberts seconds. Discussion. Nick. I was looking really hard for tough questions, but
we'll start off easy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, I'm here tonight to talk about the snow and ice management plan. We all know winter is upon us, and it's that time of year. So we look at this annually, looking for small tweaks and efficiency gains, updating the plan with new equipment, so on and so forth. So just a couple new items to mention for this year. No major changes. So just a couple items I mentioned in the report there. Parking lot maintenance for the city hall here, we've moved that over to a contractor. We were using our big full-size wheel loaders, which was a little inefficient, so putting that onto the contractor will allow more time for the loaders to be out on the streets.
Awesome.
We've installed some new temperature sensors, one at the 4th Ave PRV and one at Jim Ogilvie Way. So these are monitoring the pavement temperature, which is a critical piece, and knowing what not just the ambient temperature of the air, but what the temperature of the road is. So that's a new installment for this year, and we're also looking to hopefully get some cameras in the following year. So we'll continue working on that. Updated the fleet with our new equipment that we have this year. So the new 23 tandem axle plow, new loader from earlier in the year. And hopefully soon we'll be getting another single axle plow replacement, unit number 20. And then lastly, just updating all the maps. So just a few small changes on that this year, making sure we have all our one-way plows designated on our streets, updating our storage locations, and then a couple of the new paths that we added. So the main one being the McDougall path that was on there up in town site. I just also wanted to kind of take this moment to talk about the crew in general. So we've had some staff changes throughout the year here. So our normal crew makeup is 12 operators. In the last 6 months, a third of those are new individuals, and then another 2 of those. So half of the crew is a year or less experience with the city. So lots of movement up and training happening. But I just wanted to mention that so everyone's aware. So it could be a bit of a learning curve this year with the new operators and everything out there. And I guess linking to that, just a reminder that as new council members here, I'm sure you're going to be hearing some snow and ice complaints out there. So please ensure that we direct those residents to report those to the operations desk. We can call the operations desk, or we have that Lightship app on the website. That's really the best way to get it documented, tracked, and actioned on. So just a reminder on that.
Councillor McBain.
No, I just wanted to say that that's a really good leadership message. Being proactive and you know, showing support for your new operators and basically telling folks have patience. So
Please.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
So on that vein, I mean, deer are an issue twice a year for the most part. Snow removal, though, takes things to another level for councillors. Believe me, you are going to hear earfuls about windrows. And every year, I mean, the city has never cleared windrows. And every year for the last 50 years, we've been hearing a lot of complaints about windrows. And I think it's really important, I guess, from a slightly historical point of view that 4 years ago, I think about 4 years ago, council tasked staff with going away and calculating what the incremental cost to the budget was going to be for us to remove the windrows. And that cost, if I remember correctly, was in the neighborhood of $300,000 a year between the extra equipment and the extra staff that was going to be required to do it. That represents an increase of 3% in your variable tax rate. And council of the day said that was not going to fly. So we've had the calculations done. We made a decision in the past that, you know, it's just not on the table. But believe me, you are going to hear about this probably constantly throughout the entire winter. And in some cases, you know, where we've got wet snow and then it freezes quickly and the windrows turn to ice, it is very difficult. It's extremely difficult to get these things removed. But it's not within the city of Kimberley purview to do that. I've seen already the dynamiters have been promoting on Facebook that if somebody's having trouble shoveling, call the dynamiters. They'll be happy to come out and help. We also have neighbor helping neighbor, especially where seniors are concerned. There's lots of solutions for this, but the solution is not going to rest with staff or, you know, the city of Kimberley. Go ahead, Scott.
There's one exception to the rule of when we do clean windrows. When we take the grader and we go and widen the roads, usually when we're all caught up, we create some massive industrial sized windrows. And when we do that, the loader does follow behind the grader and take care of that. Usually happens later in the winter once everyone's lost patience with us. But if they wait 5-10 minutes, the loader's right there in the neighborhood and we'll remove that from their driveways.
Thanks for that clarification, Scott. It's also important to remember that Highway 95A, all the way from Marysville right through up to the Catholic Church, is the responsibility of MODI, Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. We look after removing the piles that are on the side of the road up on Wallinger Avenue, for example. That tends to be the place along the highway where we get a lot of issues simply because there's no back lane for those homes all the way from Fast Gas all the way to the end of that street. So, it requires a little more flexibility with that, particular part of town. I don't know if you want to make a comment on that, Nick.
Yeah, you're exactly correct. Yeah, they push the snow to the side, and then once or twice a year we go and remove all that snow to help with parking and access and everything throughout there.
Yeah. Councillor McBain.
Just one thing, since you brought up windrows, just thought I'd take it a little further. And this is something that, Nick, maybe you can look into. I saw at one time they do have plow restrictors on, like it's basically like a knife thing. I don't know. Is anybody looked into that? It's a pneumatic device.
Yeah, we have. Those are more for rural type applications. In an urban setting like this, where we have driveway after driveway or tight driveways together, they don't work quite as well as that.
Go ahead.
Further, I was just trying to help you just in case you got that question. So get it on record
Get it
right
on
now.
record.
So yeah, thanks, Nick.
Go ahead, Scott.
I just wanted to thank Nick too. He's a gentleman and he didn't mention that he's also roads manager still while tackling his new role. So not only do we have 4 brand new operators, 2 relatively new operators, but Nick's doing 2 jobs right now. So that's commendable.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's busy.
All right, further, council? Thanks for this, Nick. We'll call the question. All those in favor of receipt? Motion is carried. Best of luck for the winter, Nick. Okay, next up, we have a series of appointments, of councillor appointments to various committees and organizations. So first off, this is the first of what will be a number of different appointments over the next couple of months. We're doing the ones that are most urgent to start with and ensuring that, each councillor has at least one assignment to go through. And the balance of these will happen over the course of the next few meetings. I think it's important, given what we need and the feedback that I'm getting from you folks on kind of what's important, kind of what you'd like to weigh in on. We need to get a balance of fit for the various committees. And it's going to take a little bit of time for us to get to know each other, to understand, which fit is going to be best, for these committees. So what you see here tonight are the kind of the first of what will be several to come. So first up, we have the Ktunaxa-Kinbasket Treaty Advisory Committee appointments. We'll do, can we do these both together?
Just in case we need to change in the future, if you could do them separately.
Separately? Okay,
would
no
make it-
problem, Maurice.
make it
No, that's
easier.
fine. So the first is that council appoint myself as the city representative for the Ktunaxa-Kinbasket Treaty Advisory Committee for a term ending in October 2026, which is basically the end of the council term. Moved by Councillor McBain, seconded Councillor Roberts. So brief discussion. So the Ktunaxa-Kinbasket, the Treaty Advisory Committee is a committee that, pardon me, it's arguably a regional district oriented committee for keeping the communities in the East Kootenay up to date on what's happening with the treaty negotiations specific to the Ktunaxa. So as the I was appointed this last term, a year ago, I was appointed as a member of this committee. I was appointed to the negotiating team, which you know, interestingly, has never happened because negotiations were suspended about a year ago by the Tanaha. So at this point in time, we don't have treaty negotiations underway, and we're not exactly sure when those will start up. But nonetheless, we need to have our appointments so that we're all set to, you know, move forward when in fact that happens. So a little bit of background on that. Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Royer.
Can you give me an example of what you're negotiating?
This is the provincial treaty, land treaty. This is basically a constitution for our First Nations community. These negotiations have been ongoing for years. Yeah, we're getting to the back end of the negotiations. Back end meaning we're hopeful that within a reasonable period of time, there in fact will be a ratified treaty in place. Go ahead, Councillor Roberts.
Mr. Mayor, just a point of clarification. The British, when they got around to Vancouver Island and decided that they were going to take over British Columbia, they never ever settled a treaty here. No one ever signed off on anything. They just pretended they did. And so officially there's never been treaties. That's why there's still ongoing treaty negotiations.
Yep, and there have been several First Nations communities in the province that they in fact do have treaties in place, have successfully negotiated over the years, but we're still not there yet with the Tanaha. All right, call the question. All those in favor of the appointment? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And the second part of this is that council appoint Councillor Woody McGuire as the city's alternate representative to the committee. So mover, please. Councillor Royer, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Cairns, thank you very much. So with each of the kind of regional district and/or I don't know whether the correct term is legislated appointments or not, but for these provincial type appointments, there is always an alternate that is in place in the event that, in this case, that I'm not there, then Woody would attend on our behalf. I guess we do alternates for other committees too, but that's the primary. So we have a mover and a seconder. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. All right, next up, we have the Public Library Board appointment, and the motion is that council approve the reappointment of Councillor Jason McBain to the Public Library Board for a term ending December 31st, 2023. Mover, please. Councillor Cairns, thank you. Councillor Dunneback seconds. Maurice, can you kind of give us the update? Like, we're doing these for 1 year. Why the 1 year and not for the term of council?
Because that's what the bylaw says. So the Kimberley Public Library Board is set by bylaw. So the terms of reference are in the bylaw. So
Okay,
the
cool.
appointments are for 1 year for the council members and 2 years for the public. So I'm currently working with the interim director of the library and the current chair to determine how many public at large appointment we need for 2023.
All right, excellent. Thank you for that. Any discussion? You're in for 1 more year? Awesome. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. All right, next up, we have the creation of the Accessibility Advisory Committee, and that a couple of motions here. First is that council establish the Accessibility Advisory Committee and direct administration to bring forward a terms of reference for said committee. Mover, please. Councillor McBain, thank you. Councillor Karen seconds. Discussion. Can we have commentary on exactly what this is and why we're doing this? Either Maurice or Scott, could you? Because
So,
this is new. We have not had one of these in the past.
yeah, this is a new committee mandated by the province. It's due to be set up in 2023 and established to make our community more accessible. It will involve some members of the public and a feedback mechanism. A plan will be created action plan, and then a feedback mechanism for the community to give comments both during the development of the plan and once the plan's in effect. So it'll be an ongoing concern.
Thank you for that, Scott. Any further questions on that, council? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. And secondly, on this, with respect to this committee, the council appoint Councillor Stephen Royer to the, as the representative of council on the, on this committee for a term ending December 2023. Councillor McBain moves and Councillor McGuire seconds. So is this also the one-year term thing mandated by the province, or?
No, that one is to give us more flexibility. Like if we do need to change some appointments over the, like at the end of next year, to make sure that the committee portfolio is balanced for all the council members. So.
Okay. I don't recall in the past that we've had these reappointments coming up every year. So we're going to have to put this on a bring forward.
Yep, no, it's definitely part of my bring forward.
Yep. Okay, thanks, Maurice. We have a mover and a seconder for that. Call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried. So when, Maurice, would you expect, or what's the kind of the hint from the province on when this whole thing kind of ramps up? Or do we have an indication?
Well, so the requirement came, it became effective September 1st, 2022. And there are some things that needs to be delivered. So there needs to be a plan and like Scott said, a feedback mechanism be put in place. So I guess the committee is going to exist as long as the plan is to be presented. I think there's a deadline for the presentation
Okay.
to provide the plan to the
I'm trying to kind of gauge for expectations for Councillor Royer on when he would be engaging.
Well, so what's going to happen at the November 28 meeting, I'll submit a draft terms of reference for the committee, and then we'll proceed with, it's very clear from the act that there's certain people that needs to be engaged to be part of the committee. So we'll contact them, and we'll also advertise the public at large positions.
Right.
So,
Okay. So
probably beginning, like end of January, beginning of February. With, yeah.
did you have a question, or was that the question? Okay. Thanks, Maurice. Further, council? We've already voted on that. That was an additional question at the end. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have the Kimberley Tourism Society liaison appointment. And that is that myself as the city liaison for Tourism Kimberley for a one-year term. Councillor Roberts moves and Councillor Karen seconds. What I would like is that this in fact be a one-year term, and that at the end of this 1 year, one of the councillors would be assigned. There's a bunch of work that needs to be done within Tourism Kimberley, and because I was one of the founding directors of TK and have been involved in Tourism Kimberley for all these years. It just makes sense that while we're going through this reorganization that I kind of grab that one and run with it, as long as council's okay with that. Okay, call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Next up, we have the Municipal Insurance Association voting delegate appointment. I can't believe that, that we're appointing this, but that is that council appoint again myself as the voting delegate for the Municipal Insurance Association. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor McBain, thank you. Councillor Royer seconds. So what this is, there is an AGM that happens at UBCM every year, and that's it. There is a vote that happens at UBCM that our municipality has, and we need to, guarantee that the person that is assigned to that is in fact going to be there. And as the mayor, I mean, history has it that I'm guaranteed to be there, but no other councillors are guaranteed to be there. So For a fairly minor thing, this is a pretty heavyweight way to have to do it. In any event, that's the backstory. Any discussion? If somebody guarantees to be at UBCM for the next 4 years, that'd be awesome. But as Maurice has said on a couple of the others, we can adjust as we go and get into the term and kind of understand what everybody's wants and desires are. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Next up is the Kimberley Arts Council Center 64 Society Liaison Appointment. And the motion on the floor is that Councillor Roberts be appointed. Mover, please. Councillor Dunneback, thank you. And Councillor McBain seconds. Any further discussion on this? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next up is the Mark Creek Implementation and Monitoring Committee appointment, better known as the Watershed Committee, for those that have been around for a while. And the motion on the floor is that Council appoint Councillor Sue Cairns as the City of Kimberley representative on this committee. Mover, please. Councillor McBain, thank you. And Councillor McGuire seconds. Further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Next up is the Sullivan Mine and Railway Historical Society appointment. And the motion on the floor is that Council appoint Councillor Kevin Dunneback as the city liaison to Coomer. Mover, please. Councillor Royer, thank you. And Councillor Karen seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor? That motion is carried. That's it for the appointments for tonight. Stay tuned. As I mentioned earlier, more to come as we move into the term. And last up on the regular agenda tonight is the, or under new business, I should say, is the check run. And the motion is that the City of Kimberley check run in the amount of $1,147,503.15 plus a second run of $997,365 be approved as paid. Councillor McBain moves and Councillor Roberts seconds. So again, for Council's edification, you'll notice that the motion is be approved as paid. So pretty much all of these bills, in fact, have been paid. Councillor Roberts is kind of Council's signatory. I think you're still the signatory, right? But you review, yeah. You were the signatory until we got to automation. Automation is good. You've been automated out, Sandra. It's just, that's terrible. So, but you peruse and make sure that all the paperwork is in order, that everything is as it is and appears to be prior to moving it forward for payment.
So these are both quite high, and it's largely money that's being spent on closing out all the summer's construction costs and so on. I'm sure there's some reserves still held back, but mostly it's paid. There was one for over $300,000 that was applied to I guess it would be what I thought was an equipment company, because I thought, what did we buy for $325,000? Because I thought we'd finished buying stuff for a minute, but that was in fact the money that was spent for the big bunch of work that was done down in Marysville, where they were digging and replacing and everything. It was a big job, but it was one company that looked like an equipment company that was receiving that.
So Council, with the staff report is the long list, if you go in there, of checks that are written. If there's anything that looks unusual or you are curious and would like to know exactly what that's about, just highlight it. And when we come to this portion of the meeting, you can ask, and we'll be able to highlight exactly what that was.
So I get sent the probably every 2 weeks, I'm sure it is, that I get sent the list of checks paid, and I'll go through it, and anything that I'm not clear or I don't understand, I just have Leslie clarify it for me. She's got all the invoices and everything, and she'll send me that information. And once I know what it is and I'm okay with it, then I approve the check run.
Yeah, so Sandra will probably be able to answer the question that you might have on, what we would call What's the?
Irregular
The
purchases.
irregular items versus regular items.
In honor of Jack Ratcliffe, they were called non-routines.
Non-routine. Thank
Yes.
you, Scott.
And that is a tradition that should be preserved.
And we thank Jack.
United.
We thank Jack for that, for that label.
And
Okay.
I only have this job because my skill set is finance.
I thought it was because nobody else would take it.
There's that too.
I'm kidding, Sandra. I'm kidding. And you've been doing this now for a couple of terms. Yeah. So we appreciate the work you do on this. We appreciate your diligence on this. Okay, next up we have correspondence. And just a brief word on correspondence. It's broken down into two segments. One is items that require action of some kind on the part of council, and then everything else which are items for information. The items for information we may or may not discuss. That's up to you. If there is an item in there that you wish to highlight and ask question or make comment on, feel free to do that. But we won't go through and discuss every single item under information.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's important to mention that a lot of those requests are for us to support a particular day in the life of an organization or something like that.
Proclamation.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's not something we typically do.
Yep. Yeah, let's come back to that when we get to that,
Okay.
Sandra. That's a good point. First up, though, we have one item for action, and that is a letter of support being requested by the Friends of Lois Creek for the Lois Creek wetland restoration. Could I have a mover? Councillor McBain, thank you. And Councillor Karen seconds. Do we have any discussion on this? It's pretty self-explanatory. Nick has left. Yeah, I think Nick has been out to, with Rod Chapman and kind of done an on-site thing. And if you want to make comment, Troy, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've had some back and forth with the groups involved in this, and yeah, they're proposing to make an improvement, an in-stream improvement to Lois Creek there, and kind of revitalize, renaturalize section there to replace a culvert and improve the habitat there. It's actually on portions of city land, this area, and part of the overall Lois Creek network, Lois Creek Trail Network, sorry. I think there's, I'll let their proposal speak for itself in terms of all of the various benefits that it would create for the community.
Yeah, thank you, Troy. Council, any questions? Councillor McBain, go ahead.
No, I was just going to follow up with Troy. I mean, to me, I agree with you. It seems self-explanatory. Do you see any risk in providing something like they're requesting? I don't. I was just.
No, I don't think, I think we've indicated all along that it's probably something that the community would support. We just, needed more information as plans progress, and so far nothing alarming or no red flags to raise.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks, Troy.
Cool. Further? Call the question. All those in favor of the letter of support? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Okay, next up we have informational items, and there are 7 items. Move receipt of correspondence. Councillor McBain moves. Councillor Karen seconds. Go ahead, Councillor McBain.
Yeah, I was just wondering, and this is a question to you, Mr. Mayor, if you had any commentary on the letter regarding city transportation. I know you did provide some detail on this in the paper, but I thought maybe it would be a good time to reiterate.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yes, the letter wasn't completely accurate in that we have completely abandoned or ignored the situation. In fact, there's been quite a bit going on in the background, including a meeting that I had with the Minister of Transportation and his ADM when I was in Victoria a couple of weeks ago. I think I provided council with an update on kind of where that went. Um, I think that I can't, I am aware that there is a party that is applying for a license to essentially bring L&K, probably under a different name, but the taxi service back into reality in town again. But it's sitting in front of the licensing folks at the province right now. I got a request to help out the proponent with the application, which I've agreed to do. It's just a matter of kind of working it through the provincial process. Now, that's not all. I don't think we can rely completely on that. I think we will get, or the proponent will get that license, but we're at a point where taxi services in general, and I think everybody heard what L&K were saying about the profitability and their ability to manage that business. And I think we need to be aware that even with a new proponent, doing something that was not profitable before and trying to make it profitable in the future, is a challenging thing to do. And I commend, or I guess I will commend if and when a license is issued, the proponent for doing this. However, I think we need to take a look at where we stand today with respect to transportation services in general. And what we can do, not so much the city of Kimberley, but the community, because let's face it, this is a private business. This is not public transportation we're talking about here. We in fact have public transportation. It's called the Kimberley Community Transit. And the city of Kimberley pays in the neighborhood of $300,000 a year to support public transportation, here in Kimberley. The combination of the 3 or 4 different services that we offer. So this is a private business, and what we're trying to do, as is our job, is to create an environment that allows the private sector to come in and invest and be successful at providing services for the community. And things like rideshare. Ride sharing is going to require some navigating through the provincial bureaucracies. I am certainly in a position to help with that, and at my visit a couple of weeks ago was part of that. So we're, when I say we, myself as a representative of the city of Kimberley, we're not just standing by. There is work going on. But I think it's important to understand that this is a private business, and we need to have private interests step forward and, create the level of service for the community that the community requires. I'm confident we'll be able to do that, but it's going to take some time. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. One thing I will say with respect to rideshare, everybody thinks that, somebody puts a car in place and, puts their car out, and you advertise on Facebook and you're there. It's highly regulated by the province. In fact, the regulations that apply to the taxi service apply to rideshare in exactly the same proportion. So when you look at profitability and what it takes to make that company profitable, the same challenges for rideshare are going to be there that are there with the taxi companies. Secondly, getting a license by the province to operate is not an easy thing to do. What I discovered in this journey was that there are actually 8 companies that are licensed for rideshare in the East Kootenays. They have chosen not to execute on that license. And it's important for, to understand that these rideshare companies aren't taxi companies. They are app companies. They provide an app that allows private contractors, which are the cars, to operate. And it's a reasonably complicated model to license and to implement. So I don't want to set expectations that this is an easy fix, because people think that rideshare is an easy fix for this thing, and it's not. The other factor I think that plays into this is Cranbrook. We're only 8,000 people. We have been privileged to have a taxi service as we have had with L&K for the last actually 70 years, as I understand. Boudreaux's owned it for 40, and it was in place for 30 years before that. Highly unusual for a small community like ours to have that level of service. So again, taking a look at the region and looking at the 35,000 people that we have in the region here, I think is going to be important to come into play on, you know, how the service is going to be implemented going forward. So lots of complicated issues. I hope that's a good enough summary at this point in time. If council would like any more level of detail, please feel free to contact me. I'm happy to sit down and have a more detailed conversation about it. But we are aiding and abetting. There is work going on in the background. And, you know, hopefully we'll have both a short-term and a long-term solution in place here, you know, sometime, you know, early in the new year. Thanks for asking that.
Could I ask you yes or no?
Go ahead, Sandra.
Do you know whether or not the drivers of a taxi versus the drivers of a rideshare have to pass any stringent kind of?
Class 4 license.
Okay.
They both have to have class 4 licenses.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anything further in correspondence to highlight? All right, hearing none, we'll call the question on receipt. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. We normally don't get that much correspondence in the course of our weekly or our bi-monthly meetings. Fairly heavy tonight. Not unusual though with the new council. We get all kinds of correspondence coming in of congratulations and, you know, that kind of thing. So just be aware that we usually have maybe 3 or 4 pieces of correspondence in a typical meeting. Okay, we have no question period tonight unless, of course, Melanie or Greg.
There is someone on the line that's been very patient since the beginning of the meeting. And
Have they been
so
listening to the meeting?
they were listening to the meeting. So the
But-
caller
but
that
you
was,
said that we weren't online.
well, they've been listening on the WebEx. So
Right. Okay, cool.
um,
Who do
so
we have on the line?
the caller that's been on the line with the number ending with 93, could you please identify yourself? You're unmuted. Hello?
Hi, who's on the line,
Hold
please?
on. Just trying to,
Or maybe you can.
Sorry, who's on
Hello?
the line?
can
Yeah,
you
go
hear
ahead.
me?
Yep, go ahead.
Yes, no, it's Rod Chapman. I was just listening to hear the results of your discussion about the Friends of Lois Creek request.
Hey, Rod, welcome. It was a robust discussion. There were lots of questions, and we passed the letter of support request.
Yes, I heard it all.
Oh, so I can't embellish it then.
No, thank you very much, Council. I appreciate on behalf of Friends of Lois Creek, I appreciate your support.
Awesome, Rod. Thanks for calling in and listening in.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
yes, I was curious.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, so I discovered actually when I was talking to Rod about this, that the Friends of Lois Creek at their maximum are like 6 people, and that there's really only about 2 or 3 that are doing all the heavy lifting. And the amount of work that these folks do up in that trail area is absolutely amazing. You know, for the resources that they have available, they've just done outstanding work. Okay, so we typically at this point go around the table under what are called counselor items. We won't do that tonight for a couple. Okay, we will do this tonight. So newer counselors, feel free to say nothing to report. That's cool too. What we do is go around, and it's usually about your assignments and responsibilities you have, or things that you have been doing in the community to represent the city of Kimberley. So we go around, and it's your opportunity at this point to just declare, you know, here's, you know, where I've been or what I've done. And it is with respect to your responsibilities as a counselor. If we got into, you know, kind of all the personal stuff, we might be here till midnight, because I know everybody does awesome work in the community. Okay, so Councillor McBain, Okay, hang on. Councillor Roberts, take us away.
On the 23rd of November at the Trickle Creek Resort, there is an annual general meeting for the Nature Park Society. And just for council's, so you understand the relationship, the city of Kimberley holds a license of occupation of the area that is the nature park, and they have created the Nature Park Society to operate that on their behalf. So that's the AGM, and that's why I have been involved with that. I also participated in a deer count about a week ago. Bill and I haven't counted deer since he got annoyed with the government about the deer. So we went on a deer count up high, which there's usually not too many up there because they start coming down already. But in our little neck of the woods where we were just up above there, we came upon 35. So that's one of about 10 or 12 districts.
Town site or Alpine?
No, Alpine.
Alpine.
Yeah, which was a lot for up there. So if that's any indication of how the count's going to come in, all told that it's going to be high. And tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., I'm going to meet with grade twos at Lindsay Park to talk about elections and voting and stuff.
Cool.
So that should be interesting. Probably the best audience I've had for a long time.
That's awesome, Sandra. Good luck with that.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
That's it.
That's it.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jason.
Back to my alma mater. Good, that'd be awesome.
My class was the first
my
class to
elementary.
go into Lindsay Park School.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I just, I wanted to just give an update on the latest library committee meeting that we had. It was actually back in October now, so bridging a little gap here between last council and this council. Just a few things to announce. The library is actually actively searching for a library technician. So, you know, if anybody out there is listening, or if any folks know of somebody in that field looking for a position here in Kimberley, that one is available. The public library new Facebook page is up and active. I'm not on Facebook anymore, but I hear it's really great, so people can check that out. And we are actively recruiting too for more board members. So another thing that we can, you know, the public who's listening and our council members and other folks in the room can pass that along. Yeah, there's just all kinds of initiatives going on right now, but space is becoming an issue. So just one thing that we're trying to be mindful of there and look for creative ways on how we can move some of these initiatives forward. And the last thing was just a really interesting tidbit that blew my mind, actually. The provincial funding for libraries. You have to know there's a variance between one province to the next, just given numbers or whatever. But I thought this was shocking. BC is $14 million. Alberta is $37 million. That just blew my mind. And when you look at that, to me, that just screams woefully underfunded. So again, if the province is listening, yeah, we could use some help. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you for that. The situation with the libraries is one that comes up at the regional district table frequently. So it's not gone unnoticed around the region as well. The regional district of East Kootenay took this to UBCM, and there was actually a motion at UBCM that the province substantially increase their share of the funding for libraries. So it's getting a lot of visibility around the province. All right, awesome. Thank you for that. You guys are off the hook if you wish. Go ahead, Sue.
Thank you. I wanted to mention November 27th, the Ugly Sweater Walk for the food bank from the new location down the hill, 5 kilometers. And so it's a chance to see the new location. At the end of October, I spent a day and a half at the East Kootenay Wide Poverty Reduction Collaborative. So there's a wide range of presenters both from the province and from organizations that deliver programs and services for the province. So Kootenai Employment Services and many others gave great presentations, and they identified top barriers to participating in the workforce as affordable housing and childcare. And they highlighted quite a significant funding opportunities and partnerships. So the Childcare BC New Spaces Fund and BC Housing, as well as CMHC funding, and projects that are underway, and kind of just really encouraging people to come to the table and explore, talk about what communities are interested in. And then Austin Parisian, people may know Austin. He's the former Chamber of Commerce president in Cranbrook, and he's the executive director of the Kootenai Métis Housing Society. They gave just a really compelling presentation on the impact, the high positive impact of the Chief Agnes McCoy Center that's gone up on Hurry Avenue. And it has 40 units, and it's a mix of studios and 1 to 3 bedroom units. And he went door to door in that neighborhood, had a lot of resistance to going through with this, and actually has now gone back out and talked to the neighbors, and people are so pleased with how it's working
awesome.
out. And then just wanted to mention the living wage announcement on November 17th is coming out. So communities last month across BC did that calculation, and we are hearing that likely it's going to be over $20 an hour. And I have an interest. There's a BC Affordable Housing Conference that's coming up actually next week that I'm quite interested in as well. And I'll leave it at that.
All right, awesome. Thanks for that, Sue.
Thank you.
Woody?
Yeah, I'm not quite as busy as Sue. I was invited to Community Energy Society. Is that what they're called? Association.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've invited me to a webinar coming up on November 24th that others might be interested in for elected officials around climate resilience, and I'll send that around after the meeting.
Yeah, I think did everybody get that? I've been trying to send
You
out.
got it? Okay.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah. A lot of the organizations they've gone to the elected officials directories, for the various communities, and are sending everything out direct. But it doesn't hurt. I'm trying to forward everything I get just in case. So it doesn't hurt to share this stuff around.
Yeah, I didn't see that, so I'll forward it as well, just in case.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Woody. Stephen.
Yes, I have lots of things to talk about, but I'll just mention one thing. I went to the last Cayenne Youth Network, which is called the Kimberley Youth Action Network, last Thursday, and I believe that Darrell Oakley was on the board with them, but now he's with the was he with the trustee now, schools trustee? So I believe that I'll be assigned that new position now. I'm already a board member, but I happen to be there. So, anyways, everybody.
Stephen, do not make assumptions like that.
Okay, darn. Anyways, Lori Joe, everybody knows that she's on the check run. She organizes everything, and she does a great job with these kids. She teaches them artwork, 3D printers, you name it, she does it. She does a lot of work for these kids. And unfortunately, she's going to be looking for a new location because her lease is up in 6 months. So I've been trying to help her find a new location, but if anybody knows any place where she could go, she would really appreciate it. This is 6 months down the road, but you got to plant the seed now. At that meeting, I learned so much. Every time I go there, we only have 1 or 2 meetings a year, but when we do have a meeting, I learn so much what they do. And it's not just Kimberley. Every community has a action network in each region, and they learn from each other what they do. There's a big pamphlet. If you need any information, I'll get it from Lori Joe, and I'll be happy to share with every council member. So that's just one hat that I wear, but it's other hats that I wear, but I'm just going to stop right there.
Thank you, Stephen. Kevin, anything to discuss?
I guess, yeah, the Kimberley Underground Railroad Society there, they're gonna have a winter market, which is kind of new and exciting, and I think it's a great venue for something like that, where people can really walk around and kind of embrace that feeling, and just with the snow and the trees and all that stuff, it's exciting to see that we're starting to move forward and use that more. Working with Mick and everybody else on the board has been really awesome.
Cool.
And it's the future is bright. It's neat to see it.
Right,
developing.
excellent. Thanks for that, Kevin.
Yeah, it's December 34th.
Word is out.
It's organized through the Kimberley Farmers Market, so it's actually Wild Sites involved as well.
All right, cool. We have a closed meeting tonight, so we're not quite finished yet. What we will do now is to have a motion to move into closed. Councillor McBain, thank you. And Councillor Roberts seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. We will take a couple of minutes to clear the courtroom. Melanie and Greg, thanks for being here tonight, as always. I'm disappointed you didn't have any tough questions, Greg, but we'll save